it's more easy for you to sell the kind of books you're publishing without you compromising.
Yeah. So it's been around for 7 years. Initially, I would say I was kind of a semi-professional. I was part journalist, part publishing. And the last 4 years I've put a lot of hard work into making the books sell. So that's one end of it. But in terms of real per capita spending, I would like to throw some statistics at your face, which is like per capita spending according to 2004 study is supposed to be £1 per Indian per person. That's the per capita spending, which works out to say even if it's exaggerated statistic, let's round it off to 100 rupees per person per year, which is really peanuts. Indians are not reading more books than they used to, just because one kind of Chetan Bhagat or one kind of author, there are these few authors in India who touch 25,000, 50,000 kind of sales figures. In India, we still are in a market where we say 3,000 copies and we have to, drink a beer. And Bhima and I sold 3,000 copies and I'll drink some beer.
I can contradict Anand at some point, but I'm going to have both of you sort of say. So again, the question I'm asking is business and by business, are more people interested in what you do? Are more people calling you up, Leonard, to do self-publishing? Are you finding all of that? Is more happening?
Yeah, on self-publishing, definitely more is happening. When we started in 2007, we used to get around 3 or 4 queries a month. Now we get a query every day. So people, I think it is a reflection of the economic status of people in India, whatever the reasons. More people want to write, and by extension, I'm guessing more people want to read.
And I'm just going to give you the figures I know. Largely, I'm afraid, to do with very commercial titles. So what I would say, and certainly most mainstream publishers would say in the last 5 years that's happened is, as Anand said, your average book still sells 3,000 if you're lucky, less than that, realistically speaking. But the top numbers are increasing the whole time. And you're constantly breaking. So for example, a book that has a first run of 100,000 copies, virtually unheard of in the last 4 or 5 years. You would have, I would say in the last 2 years, there would be books beyond Chetan Bhagat that had a first run of 100,000 copies. So what does that mean when the tent, like the roof of the sales figures of a country are actually climbing? The average remains absolutely stable, but certainly what I'm seeing is that the books, when they're selling, there's not a lot of them, they're selling at numbers that are like nuts, certainly, and very happily. It makes both the publishing company and the author extremely happy. I'm just looking at a larger...
I think what you all are doing is fine, and someone has to do it, and maybe, everyone is encroaching in everyone else's space. You would see us as the encroachers. But the questions we are asking are completely different, and I think if you're looking at social entrepreneurship, if you're looking at extending the scope for people to express themselves, then you're going to start with different questions, end up with different answers. The boom that you all are talking about, even in English, is a big city boom. Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, Chennai, forget the rest. So when you ask a question, is the market growing? The market is not growing because it depends on what we are doing to grow it. It's a non-existing market. It's a tiny market. How many people are reading books apart from the big metros? So for me, the challenge is, can I produce local stuff, very local stuff, books dealing with one village of Goa, a tiny village called ROC, which you all would have never heard of. Maybe 500 copies. My goal is not even to reach 100,000. I want to say, how do I get smaller editions? How do I get more people to write, more people to express themselves, make it viable? That's a big challenge.
What books you're publishing mostly? And because your model is slightly different from everyone else's.
We have published all kinds of books, literally all kinds of books, going from family histories to geographies to travelogues to self-help books, fiction, non-fiction.
But is there anything, do you find in the last few years there's a particular kind of book that you're getting offered more or sent off more than others?
We see a lot of self-help books and not normal, it's like how to behave in particular situations.
So
for how would an entrepreneur improve himself and those kind of books. So for certain niche audiences. But again, that is, like what you said, like what Frederick is saying, that people from a certain region want to hear one of them speak. It is people of a certain profession want to hear one of them speak. So entrepreneurs want something from an entrepreneur and those kind of things.
So one would really wonder whether this kind of book which he was narrating, that there is a local demand, whether the Konkani readership would like to read those books. This is a very dichotomous situation, you know, certain kinds of books, by definition, which you just mentioned, by definition, certain kinds of books go into a market where people can read in English and do read in English. But whether our indigenous language books, you know, of the same topic or same content will sell equally well, even to the Konkani market and other markets of Marathi, Gujarati and Malayalam and Bengali. Perhaps we have to really pose on that question. So far as NBT book is concerned, Anand, I didn't mean that NBT is not willing to sell books, not like that. I only meant to say that in public sector, nobody gets kicked out because he could not reach the sale figure. That's a different trajectory, you know. So that kind of competition is not there, maybe. But both NBT and Sahitya Academy have produced wonderful books, quality books, and books which have been given at a very fair and cheap price. But of course, I am ready to concede that the price could be kept down because of the subsidy given by the government. Fair enough.